Do you want to know the absolute best transformation that will work for your build? This video is for you. Like spirits, I have all showcased all of the transformation in the game. It is time to rank them properly. I went back to the drawing board and retested for hours and hours all of this transformation in the NG+4 cycle to see what each of them could offer to the table when facing the higher challenges in the game. So ultimately, I can give you my ultimate tier list for transformation in Black Myth Wukong to save you the hassle of doing the guesswork and know the right transformation for you. First up, we have Azuri Dust. When you transform into a rock guy, and this transformation grants you a steadfast talent which increases defense upon unlocking it. This talent is suggested especially when playing on higher cycles. I'm not going too deep on talents since a player can just activate all of the talent that transformation provides even without equipping the actual transformation. Now on paper, the Azuri Dust sounds like a tanky dream. You're immune to all 4 Banes and boasts really high defense. But here's the problem, it's painfully slow both in movement and attack speed. And even though I expected the normal attacks to hit like a truck because of that, the damage is surprisingly low. You gain focus charges when receiving blows, and full focus attacks on the other hand can deal great damage on targets. But most of the time, you can only do this twice per uptime as it eats up might way too quickly, so you're going to be spending less time in this form. It's not all negative though. Satisfying slams can be great when dealing with multiple targets. For example, you were surrounded by enemies and you can just clear them up easily. But however, this scenario barely happens. I see this transformation useful in very niche situations, like when you're trying to survive a boss special attack that you can't dodge as a beginner. But for regular gameplay and for advanced users, it won't cut it, and there are a lot of better options out there. So overall, Azuri Dust sits firmly in the D tier section. Coming in ice cold is the Hoarfrost, transforming into the monk from the sea that gives you ability to weave your strikes with some icy flare, and locking enemies in place with frost is definitely the highlight here. This transformation unlocks the Snow Veil talent, which increases frost damage slightly. Only spend points on this talent if you are banking on frost damage, obviously. Hoarfrost is especially useful when you are using its Ice Sheet ability, where this monk will release and turn the field into ice. The higher the focus charge spent, the wider the range. When on the Ice Sheet, it will become its deadly playground as its light attacks will turn into snowball fight, and freezing enemies become super easy thanks to its fast animation and ideal range. You will be spamming this attack a lot, and oftentimes Avalanche hits 700 to 800 per hit, and it makes enemies stagger with a decent attack speed for a heavy attack. Aside from these amusing attacks, this monk will be able to hop when on the said sheet to dodge attacks instead of regular rolls. But when used outside of the ice sheet, the normal attack animations are painfully slow, and also the movement speed, and this is another issue where you rely more on rolling to get around, as these monks loves to walk around. The damage output is decent though, as it can ramp up pretty quickly if you focus on inflicting frost. The AoE attack tentacle sweep is also nice when not on the ice sheet and gives you at least a crowd control option. But the banger is the fully charged ice sheet, which blasts enemies with damage and freezes the targets when they stay too long within the range as mentioned. This transformation is fun to use for sure, but overall it's nothing too crazy, and the Hoarfrost will receive the C rank on this tier list. Next up is Violet Hail, where you transform into a worm Guai and unlock the talent of Filthy Malice, which increases poison damage slightly. If you are building a poison build, this talent is the way to go. Violet Hail is all about poison, and each attack inflicts poison bane. The light attack speed can be slow to slightly fast, as it portrays the Drunken Master style kind of thing. The mobility here is decent, as the player will have access to normal speed and can dodge like usual. The tricky part though is you have to sacrifice your own health to improve poison infliction and imbue its blade with eggs with the Self-Torment skill. A fully charged blade with 4 stacks of eggs will lower your health to half, and there is a high chance of messing up, particularly if you are still adjusting to it, as you can suffer heavy damage and die a lot when charging, as you will be locked into your position and the charge time is pretty slow. Especially when playing in higher difficulties, mobility plays a bigger role, so timing is key here. The real damage happens when you stack 4 eggs on an enemy and then detonate them, which can deal tons of damage and heal you in the process when using using the Hive Mind skill. But the problem is, getting there takes time and you may be wasting a lot of might when trying to inflict enemies with eggs. One good thing though is, like Ashen Slumber, you can detonate yourself when de-transforming. This often deals great damage, especially when the enemy is inflicted with eggs, because it will activate the Hive Mind skill as well in the process and poison enemies. Honestly, if you're not running a poison themed build, it's just not worth the hassle, and I see its usage as pretty niche, so the Violet Hail will receive a C rank for this tier list. Now let's talk about Ashen Slumber, where you transform into Rot Guai and start slashing and blowing flames at enemies. This transformation unlocks the Rage Burst talent, which slightly increases scorch damage per upgrade. Or you plan to main this transformation in regular battles or when XP farming, this talent is highly advisable. The light attack speed of the Ashen Slumber is pretty fast, which is a nice change of pace, and it is surprisingly strong. Players will be accumulating focus charges by hitting enemies with normal attacks and using the said charges to breathe fire. Another good thing about this Fire Breath is that it has a wide cone range, making it great for dealing with groups of enemies. This is going to be your bread and butter attack when using the Ashen Slumber, even when dealing with single targets, as you will be dealing continuous moderate damage to enemies while they are suffering from scorch damage over time as well. However, this attack will lock you into place and damage takes a lot of time to ramp up. And we all know that when your might is about to expire, you can self-detonate for even more fire and scorch damage by activating the Fiery Burst spell. This transformation is straightforward to use, making it a good option for beginners who want something simple and effective. However, the damage is decent but nothing mind-blowing, so while it's reliable, there are definitely better options out there. Ashen Slumber will sit on the C tier section. Alright, so we are now stepping things up with Red Tides, and players will be able to transform into a Wolf Guai, and this transformation unlocks Moonrom talent. This talent moderately increases the damage of the next attack after performing a perfect dodge. I highly suggest getting this one, as this game is all about perfect dodge anyways, but if you're not into it or you are using the bulking set, I suggest passing on it. Red Tides gives the player a ton of mobility, and it is all about fast and hard-hitting scorch attacks and heavy attack finishers. Normal attacks deal decent damage, but the heavy attacks are where this transformation really shines. You can pull off burst damage through charge focus attacks after gaining charges after landing normal attacks on enemies, and it feels super engaging to play. What the game doesn't tell you is that depending on what direction you dodge, it can change the heavy attack finisher. For example, when you dodge backward and perform a heavy attack, will let the Red Tides leap into the air and perform a gap closing overhead scorch attack. When dodging to the side, it will spin instead, perfect when dealing with multiple targets. But when you dodge forward, it will perform a vaulting exploding attack. These varying heavy attacks are going to be your bread and butter when dealing heavy damage and give you high mobility in the process. You can react in almost any situations and counter attack because of this mechanic, and it is a huge plus in my opinion. It's definitely a step up compared to Ashen Slumber if you're looking for a scorch focused transformation, but keep in mind that after 2 focus charge attacks or varying heavy attacks, you will revert to your normal form, so make those attack count. The Red Tides earned its spot in the B tier, and there is no doubt that this transformation stepped up the game. Next up is Umbral Abyss. When you transform into the Macaque Chief, wielding a longsword that delivers Frost Vein, a transformation that unlocks the talent Red Ice, which slightly increases the player's attack after defeating an enemy. This is pretty useful when exploring, as you can stack it up pretty easily, but for a boss fight, sitting from this one out is suggested. This form has a high mobility and pretty fast attack animation, which makes it fun and satisfying to use. The combo strings are long, but because of the frost status effect, they actually easy to execute and land, as you will be freezing targets almost instantly if this transformation is being used correctly. It is a mediocre transformation on the other hand when under its regular form, but its real power comes from the Cold Heart ability, which gives both light and heavy attacks combos a shockwave, ramping up your DPS significantly. Players will be gaining charges by landing normal and heavy attacks, but to get the most out of this transformation, you will want to have at least 3 focus charges before transforming. By doing so, when you transform to the Macaque Chief, you will have access to Cold Heart right away. By activating it, it will freeze enemies so you can start dishing out burst damage right away. I suggest focusing on dealing with heavy attacks during this window while unloading the full combos. And when your might is about to run out, perform a Cold Resolution, which instantly gap close on enemies and deal significant damage as a finisher before you revert back to your normal form. Umbral Abyss plays similarly to Yun Tiger, which I will be diving into in a minute. Sure, this monk Monkey deals tons of damage, but because of its mechanics, you will be spending less time on this transformation and treating it as a burst window instead. Compared to the Red Tides, these two have the same amount of burst damage, but this one is much easier to use or execute its bread and butter attacks thanks to Frostbane. Overall, Umbral Abyss will sit on the B tier section. If you find this guide useful so far, subscribing to the channel and liking the video and engaging in the comments helps me a lot, as I do every test myself and a considerable amount of effort has been poured into this, and I appreciate your support. Now we are getting into the big leagues with Ebb and Flow, also known as the best cat in the game. In this transformation, you will become the Yin Tiger and unlock the talent called Edge, a talent that reduces the cooldown of all alteration spells, pretty useful if you are building around these spells. Right off the bat, you will notice that the attack speed is low, and these transformations normal attacks can make enemy flinch. But what surprised me is its relatively low damage during its normal form. In my opinion, the damage should be buffed as it does not match the slow attack speed that this Yin Tiger has. The Yin Tiger also can perform perfect blocks to gain focus charges, and it is fun as hell, while also giving the user the ability to manually charge his focus and unleash a charge attack. This may sound fun, but as mentioned, I find the damage pretty low. It takes time for the Yin Tiger to pull off these fully charged attacks, and at least in my opinion, doing charge attack is not worth it, but instead, it should be used to access the Windwalker form. But once you've hit your Windwalker form, it's a whole different story. You will have access to fast sword swings that can make enemies even flinch even better, and sometimes even stun lock them, and this is where the Yin Tiger shines. You will see the damage ramping pretty quickly, and it can even outmatch the burst damage of the Umbral Abyss. There were a lot of times when I managed to lower down the boss's health to almost 50% thanks to the Windwalker's power. The key to success here is transforming with at least 3 focus charges like what I suggested when playing the Umbral Abyss, so you can access Windwalker form right away, bursting down enemies quickly. You will be spending your entire might dealing with Storm Surge, and you will be spending less time with this transformation, just like the Umbral Abyss. While it's fun to deflect attacks in its normal state and somehow release a fully charged attack, the real damage comes from Windwalker. Ebb and Flow, or the best cat, easily ranks in the A tier for its mechanics and damage output. Up next is the Dark Thunder, or the Horse Guai transformation, where you're immune to thunder damage and can easily dish out Thunder Bane. This transformation unlocks the talent of Bolt Runner, which increases thunder damage slightly per upgrade. If your build performs around lightning damage, this is a must talent. The Dark Thunder is simply one of the best transformations in the game because of its ability to stack damage from different sources. The regular light and heavy attacks have this decent attack speed and might seem weak at first glance, but once you fill the focus gauge by landing normal attacks, things get interesting. Once the gauge is filled, this transformation can imbue its whip with thunder and completely change its moveset. Entering the third state, as it calls it, allows you to summon a circular lightning AoE when performing a heavy attack, dealing consistent damage over time, while the enemy is suffering from thunder strikes, which stun lock them in the process. While inside the said AoE, you can pull thunder flurries on your augmented light attacks on the other hand to deal raw damage and even inflict more Thunder Bane status effect in the process. Note that aside from the continuous thunder strikes from the circular AoE, your normal attacks summon their own lightning strikes, and we all know that Thunder Bane can lower the enemy's damage mitigation overall, so you will be seeing huge numbers during this burst phase. The best part, you can cast another lightning AoE right before your transformation ends, and it will stay on the field even after you revert to your normal form, so you can damage enemies continuously while performing your regular monkey combos. Like the previous forms, it is advisable to stock at least 3 focus charges before accessing this form, so you can access the third state right away to deal the best damage possible. With the right setup, this transformation delivers an insane DPS, and the Dark Thunder is definitely deserving of an HE rank on this list. Moving on to the iconic transformation, which is the Azure Dome. This transformation unlocks the talent Indestructibility, which considerably increased for Bane's resistance. If you are aiming for a tank setup, this is the way to go, but avoid this when doing poison themed builds. Azure Dome lets you transform into a stone monkey with slow movement and attack speed, but as expected, the damage makes up for it. The light combos deal solid damage, especially when buffed with elements, which increases its overall effectiveness. If you want more crowd control or stun locking, go for the Ice Bat spell. But if you want to ramp up the damage, go for Scorch Shower instead, so enemies will suffer from scorch damage over time while you do combos. The bread and butter of this transformation is its fully charged attacks for both single target fights or when fighting with groups. and having an active element makes it even more deadlier. What sets Azuridome apart from the others is its ability to adapt in many situations thanks to its unique spells. It assorts fire and elemental attacks and makes it its own, or even have access to multiple lives using the Life Strength spell. This transformation is a lifesaver, and this is one of the biggest advantages of this transformation, especially for players who are still adjusting to the game, allowing them to resurrect up to 3 times in the fight. When the life strand is active, and the user dies when the transformation is active, it will resurrect with a mind-blowing might extension, and this is a big thing in my opinion. When you revert back to your normal form, on the other hand, you will notice that you will still have your life strength spell, plus if you've used a remigration pill, you still have 1 active. You will have 3 revives in total. Not just that, you can even summon another Stone Monkey clone or even have access to Cloud Step and Rock Solid spells. But in my opinion, I'd rather use mine on elemental buffs and charge attacks because in NG+4, clones can be deleted in a flash or the Rock Solid spell cannot save you from hard-hitting attacks. Azuridome has the tool for crowd control and survivability, making it a jack-of-all-trades transformation that will be liked by the majority of beginners out there. But in higher NG cycles, its defense doesn't hold that much. Still, it's a great choice overall in securing the spot of the higher rank on the A tier section. Finally, we got the king of all transformation and has the exceptional damage output in the game, the Golden Lightning. This transformation unlocks the Lightning Flash talent, which increases invincibility duration when seeing through enemy, highly advisable if you are into parries. Golden Lightning gives you an insane mobility through sweep dodges that have a Cloud Step effect, making it even better. Equipped with decently fast executing attack combinations, which oftentimes easy to land on enemy targets. The damage of the light attacks might not seem worth that much at first, but Golden Lightning excels at effortlessly inflicting Thunderbane status element on targets, which massively boosts your DPS. Its varied combos deal decent to great damage as well, thanks to the Thunderbane status effects. As we all know, this transformation can parry incoming attacks and use it to its advantage. Another great thing about this transformation is you can stay in its transformation for a long time if you don't pull off its hard-hitting attacks, which makes it even out of this world. I can sit all day and parry enemies, but the real banger here, or the real game changer here, is a Death Trilogy skill, which you can unleash when your focus gauge is full. After successfully parrying 3 enemy attacks, this move is simply a monster. It can deal up to a whopping 8k damage in total, making it the hardest hitting move in the game. In terms of transformation, the main caveat is the user is required to spend a lot of time mastering parrying before seeing this transformation's potential or having a good time in general. Mastering parries and good varied combos takes time, and this is the reason why many players hate this transformation and take the Azuridome or the other A-tier transformation as their best picks. But for players willing to take the risk and want to have this dynamic gameplay, the reward is absolutely worth it. The gameplays that you are seeing right now are all NG+4 bosses gameplays, and still I'm managing to chip away almost 50 to 60% HP of the boss's health, and it is simply out of this world. So expect to decimate bosses in lower difficulties if you play this transformation right. It is no question that nothing matches the Golden Lightning's capabilities in general, crowning it as the best transformation in the game and the sole transformation that is sitting on the S tier rank. Whether you're looking for pure power or just a fun transformation to play around with, there's something for everyone. Let me know in the comments which transformation you prefer and why. And as always, don't forget to like the video and engaging in the comments when you can, as it helps me a lot. Subscribe as more guides coming for Blathmake Wukong. But if you want to know the best spirits in the game or know the best farming spots that will help you progress in the fastest time possible in the game, these videos are for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.